Kodash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabayah. Could be said as a mantra, also known as a prayer that the angels sing day and night to the Most High, and also, when said, can remove negative energy, negative entities, and all the negative ions out of the airways. The same equivalent to lighting a sage and removing bad energy, Yah, He, Va, He. Those 4 syllables are the sacred Hashem name to the Tetragrammaton. Yah, He, Va, He. The first Yah signifies the Father who art in heaven. Abba, the architect of the universe, which is the divine masculine. The next one is He, which is the divine feminine, which correlates with Mother Nature, the womb of the earth, where mankind was created, shaped, molded, and formed, which is the divine feminine. The next one is Va, which is mankind itself, as it says in Genesis, in the beginning, Elohim said, let us create them in our image. Keywords in that passage: Elohim, meaning plural, more than one, and us, more than one, in our image, mankind, which was created in He, the womb of the earth, and back to He, which is another divine feminine, which correlates with the first He, because it's signified as a her. Anna is the same equivalent to Abba, Father. Anna is mother. And the last He is Anna Chokmah. Chokmah is one of the 10 Hebrew Sephirots, which signifies wisdom. So Anna Chokmah, mother, wisdom. As above, so below. The macro prosophis above and the micro prosophis below, because we are the microorganisms and the host of the Elohim. God is eternal, the eternal essence, which dwells within inside of all of us, which once we reach our higher self, it's a particle in your brain. It's called the crystals, On chakra and other cultures, a lot of people say it's the third eye. But it also talks about that in the Bible, when you see with the single eye, you reach the crystals, And if you don't believe you can tap into it, the Messiah even told us that ye will be able to perform the same things in which I have, and even work greater wonders, Christ didn't want people to worship him. He wanted people to be equals. That's why his disciples come from the word discipline. So when you discipline yourself in the laws, statutes and commandments, as the Bible would say, which are the laws of cause and effect, you're able to perform and do these things. You have to align yourself with nature, the nature of things, So there's do's and don'ts that allow you to perform these things, but you have to be disciplined and well grounded in them, Alright, today we're going to be doing a history lesson and also the prophecies that go along with it. And this lesson is based upon the converted Jews, the origin of them. Where did the people that are in the current state of Israel come from today? Why are all these things happening over there? What does the Bible say about it? Because it's talking about a bloodline and a lineage, that goes on forever, and there's a lot of things that's transpired and taken place. So a lot of people are under illusion of what's real and what's not, or how they perceive things to be. But once you know the truth will set you free, and it further allows you to, see a clearer picture of the why and the what. Why are things happening? Why aren't things adding up? And a lot of people say, well, why is this happening to God's people? But the bloodline and the lineage is very key because it speaks upon these things in the why and the what. So I'm gonna jump right into it. I'm gonna use multiple references. I got all my papers and notes that I've taken from multiple books, sources. Old work. Yeah, I figured I'll go through some of my old work. I got folders and folders and binders before I even had any books. This is how I used to do my research. I had to just copy everything, write it down, go in libraries, take notes, do printouts, cross-examine stuff. That's where I got to today before I had all the books that I had. Now I just have books for receipts. Alright, the first one, we're going to go into the history and origin of the so-called Jews. So number one, Bulan. Who is Bulan? Spelled B-U-L-A-N. Bulan was a Khazar king who led the conversion of the Khazars to Judaism. His name means elk, moose, in Old Turkic. In modern Turkish, it means the one who finds. Bulan. Date of reign unknown, as the date of conversion is hotly disputed, though it is certain that Bulan reigned sometime between the mid-8th and 9th centuries. Other source, 7th century, 700 AD. So through my research, I found out this conversion took place around about 740 AD. AD meaning after death. BC would signify before Christ. So around 700 AD, this conversion took place, and I'm gonna give you a little backstory on that conversion. So around the time of the Crusades, before the Muslims were called Muslims, they were called the Mohammedans, the followers of Muhammad, just as Christians are called the followers of Christ. That's what a lot of Christians say Christian means, to be a follower of Christ. So back then, Muslims were called Muhammadans, followers of Muhammad. So during the Crusade times, it was a fight to see what would be the dominant religion of that time. Would it be Christianity or Mohammedanism, also known as Islam today? So during that time, these people, which the Khazars, which will be like in modern day Ukraine, Poland, German, and Turkish, these are a lot of the people from that region which converted. A lot of people, they migrated to Germany, but we'll get to that story and why those events took place there. But that's where this conversion took place during the time of the Crusades. So it says, as the conversion date is hotly disputed, though it is certain that Bulan reigned sometime between the mid-8th and mid-9th centuries. Other sources, the 7th century, 700 AD. Also unknown or hidden. Whether Bulan was the Bek or the Khagan, Kagan of the Khazars. So more certain was the Kagan by D.M. Dunlap. However, more recent works such as The Jews of Khazaria book by Kevin Brooks assumed that he was the Bek due to the references to him leading military campaigns. Khazar tradition held that before his own conversion, Bulan was religiously unaffiliated. In his quest to discover which of the three Abrahamic religions would shape his own religious belief, he invited representatives from each to explain their fundamental tenets. In the end, he chose Judaism. In the Khazar correspondence, King Joseph traces his lineage back to Bulan. He refers to the reforming Khazar ruler Obadiah as being one of the sons of Bulan. The royal descendants of Bulan are referred to by Khazar researchers as Bulanids, though their self-designation is unknown. New DNA research traces and compares this bloodline to the so-called Jews we know today that were placed in the land as of 1948 May 14th. So this is when the converted Jews were gathered up around Europe, which there was a crisis going on. Like they always say, never let a crisis go to waste. They capitalized on it. So this was already preordained. Certain events were going to happen, or they used the current crisis to rally them up and gather them and bring all the converted ones to one specific place. That's why when you see over there now, you have Jews from Ethiopia, which they are segregated, which they don't tell you on TV. It's a lot of segregation over there, and it's a lot of divide. So if they are all the same people, that should tell you something right there. Why is there segregation? And why are there multiple different, ethnic groups and colors within that one region, But the people that were taken there are all people that refer to as Jews. So this basically was like a open market. So everybody that, had a claim, or some type of background, associated with Judaism, or beliefs, they were all welcome. That's why they were gathered from multiple places. This is where you get the word Sephardic from. Sephardic means the separated, So back to this, It says new DNA research traces and compares this bloodline to the so-called Jews we know today that were placed in the land as of 1948 May 14th. So Rothschild, England, Britain, the Rothschild family, he got that land as a lease. That's why some people you hear online right now, and they say that as of October 31st, that lease, agreement, whatever went on, has expired, But, it's the reason why multiple events happen the way they happen. But let's keep going. When David Ben Gurion, head of Jewish agency, proclaimed the establishment with the United States. Now listen to that. When David Ben Gurion, head of Jewish agency, proclaimed the establishment. The establishment, which is a state. That's why it's not just called Israel. It's called the state. Keywords in it. It's not called the state of Israel. It's the Israeli state. With an I at the end. Proclaimed the establishment with the United States. New name Israeli state. But their true origins are Turkish, Polish, Europeans. So Revelation 2:9. Now, Revelation 2:9 says, I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. Talking about spiritually. And I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews, which is really pronounced Yahudim, but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Why does it say that? So Revelation 2 and 9. Now the question is, who are the true bloodline and lost sheep which the Holy Bible speaks of? The name Sabriel is given in the Sketcher letter, roughly countertemporaneous, whatever this word says, with King Joseph's letter, for the Khazar king who led the conversion to Judaism. This word is spelled Schechter, Sketcher letter. So the Sketcher letter, whatever, if I'm pronouncing that right, which I'm probably not, also gives Sabriel at least a partial Jewish Israelite ancestry. Sabriel is described as having waged successful campaigns in the Caucasus and Iranian Azerbaijan, possibly as is described as a Jew, and as encouraging him to study and adopt Judaism. The Sketcher, which is Schechter letter, is silent on the issue of whether Sabriel was Bulan. The name Bulan does not appear in the document. Khazar scholars sometimes refer to the king who led the Khazar conversion to Judaism as Bulan Sabriel, though it is conceivable that they may have been different people. In the history of the Jewish Khazar, for instance, D.M. Dunlap examined and ultimately rejected the theory of other scholars that Sabriel referred to Obadiah. Stanford Moniark Brown, a genealogist, historian, and also a converted to Judaism, would point out that it is common for Jews, whether born amongst Gentiles or converts, to have two names. One is of the nomenclature, nomenclature, of the people amongst whom he lives or was born, and a Hebrew name, Mr. Mommaerts. Brown's name is Yonathan Micah Hillel. Bulan is clearly a Turkic name. After conversion, he would have taken a Hebrew or Jewish name. Sabriel looks very much to be a Turkish idiomatic, Idiom. I don't know if that's referring to Idumea, Edom. You know, those words are all the same. Idiomatic variation of Gabriel. So that's a little brief story on Bulan. So now we're going to jump into, you know, a little bit of the backstory of, you know, Ashkenaz. You know, remember Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. You know, in the Zondervan Compact Dictionary, which I've done a video on this a couple times, you know, Shem, you know, that's, you know, where the Shemitic people came from. You know, it came from, you know, Abraham. You know, he had a son, Isaac. Isaac had Jacob, you know, and the list goes on. Then, well, Noah, he had these 3 sons, and which ultimately Shem became the the beginning of Abraham. Ham in the Zondervan Compact Dictionary, it says Ham is the progenitor of the dark races, and it goes through land mass is part of Africa, which it starts speaking of Ethiopia, Egypt, which is really Mitzrayim, or the land of Kim, and it says Japheth. The key part where I'm getting to is Japheth. Japheth in the Zondervan Compact Dictionary, it means the isles of the Gentiles, So when you go into the book of Genesis, it goes into the lineage of Japheth. Japheth had a son named Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tyrus. And then Gomer's sons were Ashkenaz, Rephath, Togarma. So basically, through the bloodline of Japheth, you get Gomer, and Gomer, one of his sons, was Ashkenaz. So people that you see over there in that land, a lot of them say that they are Ashkenazi Jews. Some say they are Sephardic Jews, which means separated, separate Jews. They're not of the same bloodline and origin, but they all have the same belief and faith, so that's why they were all brought together in 1948 in that land due to oppression and other stuff. I'm gonna give you a little brief take on that. This is what I don't condone anything that Hitler's done, but this all ties into the history and why that they have the ideology in German to do the things that they did, and what led to what. But this is out of Hitler's book. I had this book, I had the real copy of it, but this is a print off, and you can find this book in certain libraries, because that's where I had the book from, but I lost it, and I ended up owing the library because I was doing a lot of research, and it also gave you pictures of the actual people. In a book titled The Nazis World War II by Robert Edwin Herzenstein, published by Time Life. Whenever you see Rolf or Stein at the end, those are normally Jewish names of converted Jews, Published by Time Life Books. There is a chilling quote from the infamous Nazi leader Adolf Hitler on page 132. This book, you'll see images of European Jewish converts, which Hitler calls bastard. So why did he call them bastard? But we're going to go into scriptures that talk about this as well. It says, which means bastard in German. Hitler quoted that he was doing the work of God. Hitler and his Nazis were well aware of who they were dealing with. So here's where it gets interesting. Hitler said, even in his death, that he will start World War III. One of his soldiers asked, how? Hitler replied, the day mankind finds out that I was trying to defend this nation, Germany, from then, that is the day World War III will start. For on that day, mankind will learn that I was trying to save my nation from the Freemasons, the Illuminati, and the Jews. For if the Americans win the war, then they will conquer the world and forever be a slave to the Jews, as it said in the King Bulan document about when they went into the land, and it told you that America had parts in making that happen as well. But as he says here in this book on page 132, he said, if the Americans win the war, they will conquer the world and forever be a slave to the Jews, and they will try to conquer God. Do you know who America has in its possession? He asked. No. The soldier replied, the Americans have the jewels. The jewels, like his precious gem jewels, something that is special to him. And he said, the Americans have the jewels of God. The Americans have stolen God's precious jewels, he said, of God. his jewelry. And then what does he say? He said, who are they? The Negroes. Okay, so, and that links back to the Zondervan Compact Dictionary, because it says Ham is the progenitor of the dark races, but it clearly says right under that, not the Negroes. So if the Negroes are not part of that lineage, and they're not part of Japheth and the Isles of the Gentiles, it only leaves one conclusion. But that's in an actual dictionary, the Zondervan Compact Dictionary. But this is a document before a lot of us know what we know today and found out this stuff. But we're going to link them all together. It said the Negroes, they are the true Hebrews. What a foolish move and a direct challenge to God. And they plan on moving these false, said, this is his words, he said, these false white Jews into a state of Israel. Zechariah chapter 9, and a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod. Ashdod is a city in Israel. And I will cut off the pride of the Philistines, the original Palestines. Wow. In Revelation 2 and 9 says, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which that say they are Jews, but are not, but are the synagogue and Satan. I wanted to know if someone knows that Hitler mentioned this. I recently read the Kebra Nagas, where it is mentioned that the Abyssinians are the real Hebrews, though the Abyssinians have never been American slaves. I didn't know that Hitler had any knowing of this. That's what that said. So now we're going to jump into this paper here. This is a brief history on when the original people left from the original land, you know. It says in 70 AD, the Roman Emperor Titus overthrew the original black Hebrews of so-called Palestine, some taken captive to colonies of the Roman Empire. The rest were expelled and fled into Africa, where they established colonies. So when you look at Israel, Israel is Northeast Africa. So if they fled into these African colonies, most likely they were in Northeast Africa already. So a lot of them went west, migrated. But, you know, this is one story, and there's another story that before Columbus's time, there was already Hebrews migrating over here from west coast of Africa. So when you look at the 1700s Portugal maps, you're going to see on west coast of Africa, known as the Gold Coast, it's going to say Kingdom of Benin, which signifies the tribe of Benjamin, Kingdom of Yahuda, which signifies the tribe of Judah, and Kingdom of Benin. Well, those are the only two I can think of right now, but there's another one. So it was three tribes that basically, which was the southern kingdom. So once you link that all together, and then you see where they settled on the west coast of Africa, also known as the Gold Coast or the Slave Coast, you know, you can see that they already named land masses after them, you know, which are turned to something else now. And a lot of them say Ghana and other stuff today. But there's also a story that the Hebrews, they were coming over here way before Columbus's time, and a lot of them settled over here, you know. And there's a story that some were taken on slave ships, like it talks about in the book of Deuteronomy. What is that, chapter 28, verse 68. But when it says they will leave on ships to never see their homeland again, some believe it happened that way, and some believe that they were already here, which people call the Aborigines or the natives, and you know, a lot of them were taken as prisoners of war. So either way you look at it, you know, this is where this is leading to. It says the rest were expelled and fled into Africa, where they established colonies. At the time, black Africans, Hamites, and Arab Ishmaelites took many black original Hebrews as slaves. This is how black Israelites got to Africa, and why are falsely called African Americans. Later in the 1600s, remaining black Hebrews, Israelites that were of or in Spain, Portugal, and other parts of Europe, forced to flee for their lives due to murder and persecution from barbaric inquisitions of the Roman Catholic Church. Decree: King Carlos expelled any person not worshiping the Roman Catholic theology in Spain around the time Columbus landed in the Caribbean in 1492. Those Israelites that fled ended up in Africa and Asia and established colonies, as you will see on the 1700 Portugal map on the west coast of Africa, and it talks about them, another prophecy talks about them being scattered to the four corners of the earth in the Bible. So the four corners of the earth. Many were captured by black Africans, Hamites, and Arab Ishmaelites and sold to Americans as slaves. Note: historical book From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph Windsor. Note: west coast of Africa was a major area of Hebrew life at one time. Today, some remnants there, Nigeria and Ghana, this is where the land masses were changed from the 1700 map of what it said. In 70 AD, if black Israelites had run towards, they would have been captured and killed. Jesus, or also known as the Messiah, Yeshua, or Yahweh in Hebrew, or Isa in Arabic, had prophesied the real black Israelites would escape the Roman Empire by running in the wilderness into Africa. I guess it talks about this in Mark 13 verse 14, and it says something, a note I put on here said Joel 3 verse. It says the original KJV of 1611 had the Apocrypha. Apocrypha is a Greek word for hidden, But in 1928, the Vatican agreed to take out 14 books. So this is where it links to Revelation. Anybody that add into this book, I'm going to add into the plagues in which I talked about in this book. Anybody that takes away this from this book, I'm going to take away their portion from the book of life. And this just happened recently, as early as 1928, that those 14 books, which we know as Apocrypha, were removed, But during the Council of Nicaea, this is when they were, they had a lot of scriptures, documents, and historical artifacts due to these captivities and, ramshacking Jerusalem that they found, and this is when they had their canonization process. This is when what they saw fit, and what wasn't unfit. So a lot of stuff was left out. So just by looking at, the concept of canonization period, that'll tell you that there were more books and more information, but they were organizing this information, to create the Bible as a whole, and what they seen fit and what they didn't see fit. So this further goes back to adding and taking away, as the book of Revelation talks about. Anybody that adds into this book, I'm going to add into them the plagues in which I talked about in this book. Anybody that takes away from this book, I'm going to take away their portion from the book of life. So recently, as of 1928, the Vatican agreed to take out the 14 books, which is the Apocrypha. Because if you go anywhere back beyond 1611, most of all Bibles, they had the Apocrypha in them. And you got Bibles before then that actually had the book of Enoch in them with the Apocrypha. And then you have these other scriptures as Jubilees. You have the 12 patriarchs, you had the book of Jasher. And this gives you more in-depth details of the stories that are talked about in Genesis, the lineage, what really actually happened, how the earth was populated, you know. And it's a lot of stuff that's left out, you know, due to the canonization and the Roman Vatican Church, you know. So now we're going to jump into scriptures of what it's talking about. So-called Jews, scripture. Zechariah 9:6, and a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, which is a city in Israel, and will cut off the pride of the Philistines, which we know as modern day Palestine. So bastard, you know, that means fatherless, a fatherless nation, you know. So this is the words of the Bible, and that's the words of Hitler book. That's not the words I'm talking about, but it's basically somebody that doesn't belong to something, you know. So it's saying this in the Bible, Zechariah 9:6, a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, which is a city in Israel, you know. And that state of Israel is not even the original landmass of which, you know, was originally was, you know. It's just a small portion of it. And cut off the pride of the Philistines, which sounds similar to Palestine's, which is talking about today. So the other people, converted people, will be cutting off, which is, this is what it's all about. It's about taking the land, because in 1948, when they went into that land that was occupied by Palestinians, which the Bible calls Philistines, you know, and you know, they came there basically as, oh, we're your brother, you know, we're gonna work together, but ended up taking their land, you know. And even when it was in the 1950s, they had like a 6-7 day war, you know, and then they took more land. So it was kind of a deception tactic and move, you know. Even to current day, Palestine is only just within a strip, you know, and it's gated off. They can't even move freely and go through Israel and the lands that they once had and inhabited. So, you know, and that's what it's all about, you know. It's very segregated, you know. You know, one side can do whatever they want, the other side, they're only subject to certain things, but which they were occupying it beforehand. Which neither or was either one of them's original place, but you know, they were occupying it first. So now it's basically, you know, they want what's theirs back, you know. So when you hear the word Hamas, you know, Hamas in Hebrew means chaos. So when they calling them Hamas, they're calling them chaos. They're causing them chaos. But read what Zechariah 9:6 says again, and a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, and will cut off the pride of the Philistine. Ezekiel 36:5, therefore thus saith the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathens, and against all Idumea. This is where you get Edom from, Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession. So it's telling you that Edomites, Idumea, you know, Edom, you know, has appointed my land into their possession. Why would this say this? With the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. So Zechariah 2:9 says, and a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, which is a city in Israel, and will cut off the prides of the Philistine, which is the modern day Palestine. Ezekiel 36:5 says, therefore thus saith the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen. So it's basically telling you the synagogue of Satan is in play, like it says in Revelation 2:9. So does it all make sense now? Let's keep going. It says, and the residue of the heathens against all Idumea, which have appointed my lands into their possessions, with the joy of all their hearts, with despiteful minds to cast it out for prey. So Revelation 2:9, it says, I know thy works, the tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Yahudim, but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So here in Ezekiel 36:5, it says, and against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my lands and their possession with the joy of all their hearts, with the spiteful minds to cast it out for prey. When you go back to Idumea, remember who I said leased and gave the land to, the converts from all over. And a lot of people there today, they grew up in that religion and knowing that, so they don't really even, some of them know their true origins, but some of them don't. They actually believe they are the people because that's what they were told and how it was done. It creates a big delusion and deception. But the Bible already forehand talked about it. Historical records, document, you could trace it all the way back. Jeremiah 31 and 35 through 36. Thus saith the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinance of the moon and the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar, and the Lord of hosts is his name. Lord of hosts is the eternal God that is inhabiting your hosts. God works through you, so you can work those great wonders, but you have to be disciplined as a disciple, and follow the law, statutes, and commandments, which are the laws of cause and effect, universal law that you align yourself with, And when he's talking about, he said, giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinance of the moon and the stars for a light by night, because the Bible tells you, it says, nobody knows the time or when it's going to happen. It's going to be like a thief in the night, but you will know by the signs above, the signs, planetary alignments. And because everything that happens in nature, it reflects what happens here on the ground, believe it or not, So 36 of Jeremiah 31, 35 to 36. If those ordinances departed from before me, saith the Lord, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. So he's basically saying, they might have went in captive, they might have been separated, scattered to the four corners of the earth, they might have been under these punishments, they might have been under these curses, they might have been defamed, but if the ordinance of what I created, the night, the day, and the natural cycle of things just stops, then I forget them forever. But as long as that is still as I have created it, so shall they be in remembrance, and he will bring them back to their rightful state. So Romans 11 and 1. I say then, hath God cast away his people? God forbid. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham and of the tribe of Benjamin. Baruch is, you can find it in the Apocrypha. Baruch 4, 35 through 36. For fire shall come upon her from the everlasting long to endure, and she shall be inhabited of devils for a great time. So it talks about this in the book of Mark. It talks about this in Revelation. It's talking about a people that are going to inhabit this land. Why does it keep saying this? Because it's telling you something. A lot of people are like, well, why is everybody against them if they're God's people? Some people are against them because they just know the historical record. Some people don't even know the prophecy, or some people know the bigger plot that's at play. But it's telling you over and over again. Baruch 4, 35 through 36. 35, it says, fire shall come upon her. It's always signified as her. This landmass is her. For the everlasting long to endure, and she shall be inhabited of devils for a great time. Well, back to Revelation 2 and 9. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but ye are rich. I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Yahudim, but are not, but are the synagogues of Satan. So the synagogues of Satan, the dwelling place of Satan, or people with this nature of the evil inclination, which are a collective whole in consciousness, mindful and aware of their actions, their history and behavior before a bigger plot and play. 36. O Jerusalem, look about. thee towards the east, and behold the joy that cometh upon thee from God. 37. Lo, thy sons come whom thou sendest away. They come gathered together from the east and the west by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of God. So this is talking about the return. Just like it also talks about in the book of Baruch, it says that those that are scattered abroad, he will wake them up in the land of their captivity, and they shall remember themselves, and they shall remember the ways of old and their forefathers that sinned before the Lord, but they shall be put back into their rightful place, and they shall keep all the ordinance, laws, statutes, and commandments that were originally put in place that they didn't follow, which caused this effect to happen to begin with. If that makes any sense. 26. My delicate ones have gone rough ways and were taken away as a flock caught of the enemies. Be of good comfort, O my children, and cry unto God, for all ye shall be remembered of him that brought these things upon you. So he's basically telling you, you will be remembered, even though you were defamed, even though you were scattered, even though your heritage was taken away, even though a lot of people don't even know who you are. A lot of people, because these other things had to take place. So this is where everybody gets the perception, the idea of the people that are in the state today, but it's telling you the back history on 3 references. Said synagogue of Satan, inhabited by devils, Gentiles, a bastard nation shall dwell in Ashdod and cut off the pride of the Philistines to Palestine. Are you not seeing this in real time? So, that's what it says. It says, be of good comfort, O my children, and cry unto God, for ye shall be remembered of him that brought these things upon you. 28. For as it was your mind to go astray from God, so being returned, seek him tenfold. Because it was of your mind, your free will. You had these commandments and ordinance, but you ended up getting a generational curse because your forefathers broke something. So a lot of things weren't even passed down to you. But believe it or not, true Israel, true people, God's spiritual lights, you do a lot of things on the natural basis that are already written on your heart and consciousness that connect you to the law. You do them unknowingly. Some people never even read the law, but they do these things of good nature and they don't even realize why they do it. A lot of you have this spark and shine. It makes people gravitate to you. It's called magneticism, It also makes a lot of people hate you or dislike you because, when you walk in the room, people get this vibe. Some people think you're better than them. Some people know that you're going to make the day better for them, you help them simplify their job duties, you make their work a little less harder, so you're needed, You're a blessing in all of these places that you are, and you exist with other people, For as it was your mind to go astray from God, so being returned, seek him tenfold. This is the time that we're in. So you've seen a departure, you've seen other inhabitants dwelling in this place for this period of time, And then, let's see how much more we got. Oh, the next one is biblical marriage. I titled these, I wrote these long ago, But I felt as though it was vital to bring out at this time. Let's see, did I miss anything? Yeah, now this goes into the concept of organized religions and the traditions of men and the ideology in which they possess as far as being modern day pastors. Modern day pastors. Over here. In Genesis it says, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. So wherever you are, you're a blessing anyway, Your energy is much needed, even though it is much hated as well. Genesis 12:3. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. You wonder why when certain people wrong you, without a righteous intent, something bad happens to them, because that's the cause and effect. Still happens to this day. Some people will try to say it's witchcraft, it's voodoo, it's this, and that. Believe it or not, anything you think of with a pure conscience and a pure heart, why somebody wrong you, why is it happening, God got a plan for them, God is the eternal essence within you, By you thinking it or speaking it, you conjure it. And by you conjuring it, therefore it exists. Just like in the beginning, it was the Word. The Word is a frequency, a sound vibrational frequency that moves things, and when you speak, those ions, they go into the ether, the elements, that's why I tell people all the time, speak to nature, speak to the trees, say thank you for rising every day like the sun, thanks for the moon and the light at night, thanks for everything working in unison together, for the greater good of humanity, Say things that you are grateful for on a daily basis, because a lot of people are always thinking about the worst, so they don't really get a chance to see the good, but it's always something good happening to them, but they fail to ignore it and acknowledge it. But the more you acknowledge it, the more blessings and things that will happen to you, Everything works vice versa, as a counterbalance and a balance, in duality, two sides, That's why I tell people all the time, you have to know the exoteric, which is the external, outward, physical nature of things, and the esoteric, which would be the inner essence of things, So right here it says, Genesis 12:3, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So anywhere you at and you connected to somebody, therefore that's the reason why things prosper. And when you leave, or you cast out, or they take crafty counsel against you, like Psalms 83, to cut you off from being a nation, or just cut you off from being you, because somebody else wants your position. All else fails, stuff starts to crumble, disintegrate, the numbers start to go down. They're not as good as they were when you were there and present, I'm not saying this for everybody, because everybody doesn't have that nature, but those that know that their nature is pure, they try to live a righteous life, they're calculating everything they do before they do it, what they say, how it affects other people, and think things through and are very precautious, those are the people that can make mountains move, or make the numbers go up or make the numbers decrease, That could be a whole nother topic. I can elaborate more on that, but that gets into the magneticism parts and, how you can work great wonders, But the key for you to work those great wonders, you have to do it with pureness of your heart and balance, You can't have a destructive ideology and mentality to be able to perform those things, because there's some people that master those things, but they use them for all the wrong reasons. That's why a lot of people, they just tell you those things is bad, don't look into it, don't go near it, because it has a real effect, Alright. Ezekiel 22:26. Her priests have violated my law, because when you go into these establishments, churches, and institutions, religious institutions, they say that the law is done away with. But this is what it's saying right here in Ezekiel 22:26. Her priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profaned amongst them. They had hid their eyes from my Sabbath, because most people, they worship on Sunday, but Sunday is originally the first day of the week. In other cultures, It was considered the worship of sun. But Saturday is actually the 7th day, which is the Sabbath day, you know. And, you know, like it says, her priests have violated my law. The law was done away with, you know, and they had hid their eyes from my Sabbath. Believe it or not, when I read the 6th and 7th book of Moses, it tells you about the blessings that happen on the Sabbath day. It tells you in Matthew 24 about, you know, pray that your flight not be on the Sabbath day, because destructive things will happen. If you notice, whenever any attack happens or major thing happens on the news, I've been calculating this for years now. It always happens on a Saturday when people are partying, going out and about, traveling, or doing something they ain't supposed to be doing without a pure intent. You know, this is when a judgment will always happen on a Saturday or Sabbath, or, you know, it will blessings will also happen too, you know. That's why the Messiah, he healed somebody on the Sabbath day, you know. It's a lot of things that days of the week are very key. That's what it'll show you in the magical books of Solomon, the greater and lesser keys. So it tells you about the planetary alignments, you know, Shabbatai, Saturn, Tzedek, Jupiter, Madam, Mars, Nogag, Venus, Kokab, Mercury, Shamash, the sun, Shemash, the sun, Lavana, the moon, you know. And it tells you how each planetary alignment correlates with a specific day of the week, you know. I've heard some people say, oh, Saturn, it correlates with Satan, you know. But once you read the other books, it tell you that Saturn, Shabbatai, this is where you get Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbatai correlates with Saturn. Saturn correlates with Saturday, with the Shabbat, you know. So people have a way of twisting things and taking them, you know, out of context. So that's why you have to seek and find. You have to study till you show yourself approved. You have to, like, really read these things, because you can't take nobody's word for it when it comes to this information. Yeah, you can follow consistency and patterns, because consistencies and patterns don't lie. People do. But it's very key to know these things, you know. That's why I took an effort, you know, to start learning Hebrew alphabet. Each syllable, you know, having a powerful meaning, from the Alpha, the beginning, and Omega, which will be the last, but that's a Greek translation. Aleph, Bayet, Gemal, Dalet, He, Va, Zin, Hayet, Tet, Ya, Ka, Lamed, Mim, Nun, Sameth, Ayin, Pei, Tezadeh, Quaf, Resh, Shin, Ta. So when you say Alpha and Omega, you are saying Aleph and Ta. Aleph being the first, Ta being the last. I am the first and the last. That's what the Alpha and Omega mean. So Aleph and Ta. So when you say those syllables, they have a different alternate effect, you know, because those sound vibrational frequencies in the original pure language are very key, you know. When you get into saying things in English, you know, you're getting into spell work. Spell work is basically organizing letters into words that have effect on how you perceive things to be. When you have one word that means 3-4 different things, you know. They say good morning, you know, but like people say, what's good about morning, you know, or you mourning somebody, you know. You have words that have 2-3 different meanings, you know. That's what media is. Media comes from a Greek goddess called Media, you know. It deals with spells, you know, altering your perception, having a trick on words, you know, wordplay. So you're saying something to somebody, but you don't realize people are like, oh, you got to be this type of person, that person to cast a spell. No, everybody can cast a spell, you know. That's why it's life and death in the power of your tongue. You got to be careful what you say and how you say. It's not what you do, it's how you do. It's not what you say, it's how you say. That's where it becomes a vital thing. So let's keep going on a little bit more of this. And it says, the old laws are done away with. Come as you are. That's what the churches say. In the actual Sabbath, those things we eat that are unclean, you know. Just like a lot of things they tell you it's a delicacy, you know. Or if you just bless it in Jesus' name, it's good. But it really don't work like that. The law is forever, you know. So certain things that are unclean, it's not even just the spiritual aspect about it. It's scientifically proven. If you eat certain things, you know how it will affect your body. You can't cellular regenerate, you know, and prosper, you know, in your host, temple, and vessel. That's to keep your host, your temple, and vessel strong. So if you stay clear of certain foods that have this type of effect on your organism, you know, because if God dwells there and that's where God lives at, you know, He wants to be in a clean space. In order for those powerful things to happen, you know, you got to be clear of that. Just like it says, it tells you don't eat the swine, you know, in Leviticus 11. It also tells you don't eat anything in the seas without fins and scales. So it's talking about the bottom crawlers, you know, those shell crawlers that are at the bottom of the ocean, but are actually used as filters. So all the bad things they eat and, you know, clean, you know, out, you know, in fish bowls, you know, ponds, sea. These bottom crawlers, they eat all the bad bacteria and organisms, which, you know, these bright geniuses tell you it's a delicacy. It's a 5-star meal. You eat this with that, you know, but, you know, it'll hurt you. So if you want to make your lifespan stronger, you know, your temple, host, and vessel, where the eternal essence, you know, the eternal God dwells, you know, you got to be careful what you eat. It's like Psalms 82. Ye are all gods and children of the Most High. You know, that's what all the patriarchs and matriarchs of the Bible knew and did. God allowed them to perform certain things because He worked through them. That's why the Messiah said, I am in the Father and the Father is in me, you know. I am in the Father and the Father is in me, you know. And when they say 2 or more gathered in the Messiah, He's present, you know. But in the Gospel of Simon, tell you when the 2 become one, when you learn to control your thoughts and your emotions, because you have to feel something, you have to conjure it up. It has to be in your heart. You feel it, and then you think it through, you know, and then you manifest it into the reality of what you want it to be. You know, certain things might not happen as soon as you do them, but under certain alignments, you'd be surprised. That's when people think, dang, it's a miracle, it's a blessing, because you did something at the right time, you know. You know, and that's what the greater and lesser keys of Solomon talks about. It tells you about planetary hours, days of the week, you know, and how the numbers work, what angels are governing them, you know, what spirits to call on, you know. We have dominion over, you know, the spiritual realm of angels and angelic force. They were created to guide in the system, but nobody never taps into that or even looks into it. But I'm about to wrap this up because we're about at an hour now. You know, I didn't think it was going to go that long, but this is talking about the churches again. It says Isaiah 56:10. His watchmen are all blind. They are all ignorant. They are all dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. And a note says, they are to warn you of danger, but do not. So when they tell you, come as you are, you know, oh, this is okay, you bless this in Jesus' name. They're not warnings. They're not barking. They're not alerting you of the dangers that come with this. And they're also not alerting you of the blessings that will come with this as well, you know. So this is, you know, a way to control, contain, you know, the traditions of men and religious systems. That's why it's better to just be a spiritual life. You find God within yourself, in nature, through trial and error, and experiments that create experience, you know. You experiment, you're figuring stuff out through your trial and error. Like they say, a science experiment, you know. You see what works and what doesn't work, you know. But there's already laws written that'll show you the cause and effect. But a lot of us, we gotta go touch the stove and see if it's hot, you know. when our grandparents or mothers, they told us, don't touch that stove, the stove is hot, you know. But we got to go out there and figure it out and experiment and see what works and what doesn't work for us, you know. We got to learn the hard way. When, you know, a lot of this information is right here in front of us, you know. But we tend to look past the little things. It's the little things that count the most, you know. And it's very vital that, you know, you realize you're not a powerless being. You have the power. You have the almighty power. El Shaddai. When you say the Hashem Shaddai, you know, that's almighty, you know. Each one of those names of the 72 organs, you know, are very powerful. You know, it's very key. A lot of people don't know, you know, they just say simple things. They say that, oh, there's only power in this name or this. Anything you believe on with a strong emotion, when, like I was telling you, the two become one, you know, it'll subdue a lot of things. But when you use, you know, like right here, 7 names. You got the Yah, He, Va, He, those 4 syllables, which is a sacred name, the Tetragrammaton. You have El, you have Eloah, you have Elohim, you have El Shaddai, you have Tezbayah, you have Yah, and you have other names and titles. You have Adonai, you have Ahaya Shahaya, which is I am that I am. You have Elah, you know. So when you hear the name Allah, you know, it's really spelled E-L-A-H, you know. You know, in 5% cultures, they say Allah means arm, leg, arm, head, you know. But right here, I can show you another thing. On one of my charts, hold on, where is it at? Show you. People don't realize how powerful certain, when you say certain things, power it has. Well, as you see right there, you know, you see, it says, but another thing, people don't, that I want to say, when people say the word Lord, a lot of people don't realize that in Hebrew, when you translate Lord, you are saying Baal. Baal. Now look up Baal when you say Lord, you know. So it's very key that you comprehend what you are saying. So, like I'm saying, 7 names of God. Yah-He-Vah-He, which is sacred name, the Tetragrammaton. Some people say Yahuwah. Some people say Yahweh. Some people say Yahweh. You know. In English, they'll say Jehovah, because Jah is the English word for Yah. Then you have El, you have Eloah, you know. And some of these trigger the divine feminine aspect, you know. So a lot of people, they always say him, but they don't realize it's dual. It's a duality, you know. It's a him and a her, you know. It's a divine masculine and it's a divine feminine, you know. So if you notice, a mother is a birther and a nurturer, you know, the same way nature is, you know. You have Eloah, Elohim, El Shaddai, Tezbayah, Yah. That's why when I say Quadash, Adonai, Elohim, Sabayah, Tezbayah. You know, some people spell it with the S, some people spell it with the TZ. Other names and titles, Adonai. Then it right here it says Baal, because it's talking about, this is when people say Lord, you know. But it tells you about Baal in the Bible. Ahaya Shahaya. It's what Moses, when he came off the mount. I am that I am. El Roy, Elion, the eternal one, the eternal essence, eternal one that lives within you. Ye are all gods and children of the Most High. Ah, Mim, Da, Salah. Ah being the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Alpha, Mim, the mediator in between the two worlds, the ladder, Jacob's ladder, as above, so below, and Ta, the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which is Omega, the Alpha and Omega. Ah, Mim, Da, Salah. You say Tav as Tha, that's how you pronounce it, but it's the name of the letter is Tav. And Aleph, which would be Ah, you know, that's how you pronounce that, but it's you say the actual letter Aleph. I, Mim, Ta, Salah, you know. That's how I always end things, saying Salah, you know. There's multiple reasons why I don't say amen, and you know, it's a lot of, you know, things that come with it, but I say I, Mim, Ta, Salah. Believe it or not, you are a creator. So once you get certain information, how you put it in context in your own unique way, you know, that connects you to the Most High, the Eternal One, you know. So everybody has their own ways of how they go about it, but it all boils down to your intent, you know. You know, your actions can be, they can look, people could look at it from so many different ways, but it always is going to boil down to your intent. Because if you don't know the intent behind why people do what they do, why and the what, you know, you don't really know, you know. So you just perceive it as a certain way, but your intent, you know, your energy is what's connected to source. Like I say all the time, it's like Wi-Fi. It's a signal. You know, you have your source, your router box, and then you have your devices, the hosts and the vessels, you know. I'm out. Deuces.